Have you ever walked into a room for the first time, yet somehow knew exactly what you'd see when you turned the corner? Or met someone new, only to feel you've known them your entire life? That strange sensation, that whisper of familiarity, in completely unfamiliar situations, has touched nearly all of us at some point. Déjà vu, already seen. According to a Gallup poll, approximately 2/3 of Americans report having experienced this peculiar sensation. Many dismiss it as a simple neurological hiccup, a momentary confusion in our brain's filing system. But what if these momentary glimpses of recognition are something far more profound? Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet, offered an explanation that transcends conventional understanding. Through thousands of readings given while in a trance state, Cayce suggested that déjà vu experiences aren't glitches in our neural circuitry, but rather momentary alignments between our conscious mind and our soul's vast reservoir of memories. Memories that extend beyond our current lifetime. Consider Lily from Portland, who stepped into an old bookstore in Charleston during a business trip. She'd never been to South Carolina before, yet as she ran her fingers along the aged wooden shelves, a profound sense of belonging washed over her. She knew without looking that the staircase in the back corner would creak on the third step. She felt at home among books arranged by someone she'd never met. I couldn't explain it, she later shared, but I felt like I'd spent countless hours there, maybe in another time. The smell of old paper and wood polish didn't just seem familiar, it felt like returning to something precious I'd forgotten. From Cayce's perspective, Lily wasn't imagining things. Her soul was remembering. The concept feels radical in our modern world, where we're taught that our identity begins at birth and ends at death. Yet, throughout human history, across diverse cultures from the Druids of ancient Britain to Hindu traditions in India, the idea that souls experience multiple journeys through physical existence has offered a framework for understanding these uncanny moments of recognition. For Cayce, déjà vu represents thin places, moments when the veil between our present consciousness and our soul's greater awareness temporarily lifts. These aren't random. They often occur at pivotal moments or in the presence of people who have been significant to us across the tapestry of our soul's journey. Think back to your own experiences with déjà vu. Were they merely fleeting and forgettable, or did they carry an emotional weight that made them stick in your memory? Did they happen during ordinary moments, or at times of decision, transition, or meaningful connection? When John, a music teacher from Arizona, first picked up a classical guitar at age 14, his fingers seemed to know where to go before his first lesson. His teacher was astonished at his natural positioning and intuitive understanding of the instrument. John described it not as learning, but as remembering, as though his hands had held this shape countless times before. Cayce would suggest that John's soul indeed remembered, that somewhere in his soul's journey, music had been more than a pastime. It had been a calling, a purpose, a means of expression and connection. This perspective invites us to consider our lives not as isolated incidents in cosmic time, but as chapters in a much longer story, one in which we've loved, learned, struggled, and grown through many different circumstances and relationships. What if the unexplainable attractions, fears, and talents you've carried since childhood aren't random at all, but carefully preserved imprints from your soul's earlier journeys? Edgar Cayce's readings consistently emphasized that we don't merely live sequential lives, we build upon them, carrying forward the essence of what we've learned, created, and experienced. The soul, Cayce explained in reading 28422, is a portion of the divine that seeks expression. This expression doesn't reset with each lifetime, but accumulates wisdom and tendencies that shape our present reality in subtle yet profound ways. Consider Michael, a Boston architect who, since childhood, has been inexplicably drawn to ancient Egyptian design. Long before studying architecture formally, he filled notebooks with sketches of temples and monuments he'd never seen in person. During his first visit to Egypt in his 30s, tour guides were astounded by his intuitive understanding of construction, techniques that historians had only recently confirmed through modern archaeological methods. Standing before these structures, Michael recalls, wasn't like seeing something new. It was like remembering something I'd helped create. I knew how certain blocks had been moved, why specific angles had been chosen. The knowledge wasn't intellectual. It lived in my hands, in my body. According to Cayce's framework, Michael's architectural intuition wasn't coincidental or imagined. It represented skills and knowledge his soul had developed during an incarnation in ancient Egypt, knowledge that remained accessible to him not through conventional memory, but through what Cayce termed soul memory. This concept extends beyond professional talents to encompass our most personal reactions and relationships. Think about the people you've met and immediately trusted or distrusted without rational explanation. Consider the locations that have felt instantly like home or triggered inexplicable discomfort. Through Cayce's lens, these aren't arbitrary emotional responses, but echoes of your soul's previous experiences. Elizabeth, a middle school teacher from Virginia, had always experienced severe anxiety around large bodies of water, despite growing up nowhere near an ocean or lake. No family stories explained this fear, yet the mere sight of waves would trigger panic attacks so severe she'd need to leave the beach. Through deep meditation practices, Elizabeth eventually accessed fragmented memories of drowning in what seemed to be 19th century clothing, memories that felt both foreign and intimately her own. After working through these impressions with techniques that honored rather than dismissed them, Elizabeth's water phobia gradually subsided. Today, she swims regularly in the Chesapeake Bay near her home. "I still respect the water," she explains, "but the paralyzing terror is gone. Understanding that my fear might have roots in an actual experience, even one from another lifetime, somehow made it easier to process and release." Cayce's readings suggest that many of our most stubborn challenges may have similar origins: the unexplainable chronic pain that medical tests can't diagnose, the recurring relationship patterns that persist despite our conscious efforts to change them, the childhood talents that emerge fully formed as though remembered rather than learned. In reading 2301-4, Cayce addressed someone struggling with a difficult physical condition. "For what ye sow ye reap, this is the universal law. Yet know the application of spiritual forces in thy experience now may overcome the errors of the past." This perspective offers something profound that many modern therapeutic approaches lack: both accountability and hope. Accountability in recognizing that our present circumstances may reflect choices our souls have made across multiple lifetimes. Hope in understanding that no pattern, no matter how deeply ingrained, is permanent. The evidence for such soul continuity appears not just in dramatic cases but in everyday experiences. Research at the University of Virginia's Division of Perceptual Studies has documented over 2,500 cases of young children who remember details from previous lives, details often subsequently verified through historical records. Many of these children show skills, phobias, or birthmarks that correspond precisely with their described past life experiences. James, a child from the Midwest with no exposure to intricate mechanical concepts, could disassemble and reassemble complex machinery by age 4. When asked how he knew what to do, he would matter-of-factly reply, "I used to be a mechanic before, when I was big." His parents, initially skeptical, were eventually convinced by the specificity of his knowledge and his ability to repair devices he'd never seen before. While mainstream science has yet to fully embrace the concept of reincarnation, fields like epigenetics are beginning to recognize that experiences can indeed be transmitted across generations through biological mechanisms. Cayce's work suggests that similar transmission occurs not just genetically, but at the level of the soul itself, that we carry forward not just our ancestors' physical traits, but our own spiritual growth and unresolved challenges from previous incarnations. This continuity appears in our dreams as well. Many people report recurring dreams of historical periods they've never studied, complete with architectural details, clothing styles, and social customs they couldn't have learned through normal means. From Cayce's perspective, these aren't random creations of the subconscious mind, but memories surfacing during sleep when the conscious mind's barriers are lowered. Rebecca, a software engineer from Seattle, had detailed recurring dreams throughout her 20s of living as a Native American woman, collecting specific plants for medicine. Years later, while attending a botanical workshop on indigenous healing practices, she was shocked to discover that the plants and preparation methods from her dreams matched actual historical practices of tribes from the Pacific Northwest, practices not commonly documented in popular media. "The instructor showed us a root I'd seen hundreds of times in my dreams," Rebecca says. "I knew exactly how it would smell when cut, exactly how it needed to be prepared. When I mentioned this, the workshop leader, a tribal elder, wasn't surprised at all. She simply nodded and said, 'Some knowledge stays in the body.'" Cayce would take this a step further. Some knowledge stays in the soul. This doesn't mean we're trapped by our past lives. Rather, Cayce emphasized that we choose our current circumstances, specifically to address unresolved lessons and relationships. Each lifetime offers fresh opportunities to heal old wounds, develop new strengths, and deepen our capacity for compassion. The journalist and cultural historian who feels inexplicably drawn to a specific historical period may be reconnecting with a time they once lived through. The parent who instinctively understands their child's particular needs may be continuing a soul relationship that spans centuries. The person who volunteers with a specific cause, despite no personal connection to it, may be balancing actions taken in another life. As you reflect on your own unexplainable talents, fears, and attractions, consider what they might reveal about your soul's longer journey. What recurring themes appear in your life? What places or historical periods fascinate you beyond ordinary interest? What skills have come to you with unusual ease? These patterns may offer glimpses into the rich tapestry of experiences your soul has gathered across many lifetimes. There are meetings that alter the course of our lives, connections that feel less like new acquaintances and more like reunions. A conversation with a stranger that flows with the ease of lifelong friendship. A glance across a crowded room that sends an electric current of recognition through your body. These moments defy conventional explanation, yet they're among life's most profound experiences. Edgar Cayce's readings offer a framework for understanding these extraordinary connections. Soul groups. According to Cayce, we don't journey through eternity alone, but travel with clusters of souls who weave in and out of our various lifetimes in different roles and relationships. These soul companions, sometimes called soul families or soul groups, come together not by accident but by cosmic design, each encounter offering opportunities for growth, healing, and the balancing of spiritual accounts. Relationships are opportunities, Cayce explained in reading 26:20-2, for which the soul enters into materiality. In other words, our deepest bonds aren't merely social or biological. They're spiritual agreements made before birth to help each other evolve. Consider the experience of Robert, a university professor from Minnesota. At an academic conference, he found himself seated next to a colleague from Japan he'd never met before. Within minutes, we were finishing each other's sentences, Robert recalls. We shared the same unusual research interests, had reached identical conclusions through completely different methods, but the strangest part was the sense that I knew not just her ideas, but her mannerisms, her thought patterns, even how she would respond to certain topics. The two scholars subsequently discovered numerous synchronicities in their lives. They had been born on the same day of the same year, had both survived the same rare childhood illness, and had both changed their academic focus after the same vivid dream. Today they collaborate on research spanning continents, a partnership both describe as effortless. From Cayce's perspective, Robert and his colleague weren't meeting for the first time, but reconnecting after being separated by time and geography. Their instant rapport wasn't coincidence but recognition, souls who had worked together before, finding each other again to continue their collaboration. This pattern appears not just in fortuitous meetings, but in challenging relationships as well. Though the person who triggers your strongest reactions, positive or negative, may be playing a role in your soul's longer journey. The parent who presents your greatest challenges may have been your child in another life. The romantic partner whose betrayal causes your deepest wound may be offering an opportunity to heal a cycle of hurt that has repeated across centuries. There are no chance encounters, Cayce stated in reading 36:77b1. Those who are drawn to you and those to whom you are drawn have been with you in the past. Melissa, a nurse from Louisiana, struggled throughout her career with an intense, seemingly irrational dislike for a particular doctor at her hospital. Though the physician was competent and respected, Melissa would feel physically ill when assigned to his surgical team. I couldn't explain it, she says. He'd never done anything to me personally, yet being around him filled me with both anger and a strange sadness. Through meditation and dream work, practices Cayce often recommended for accessing soul memory, Melissa eventually received vivid impressions of serving as a battlefield nurse during the Civil War, working alongside this same doctor. In these impressions, he had prioritized officers over enlisted men, leaving many soldiers to die despite Melissa's pleas to help them. Whether those impressions were literally true or symbolic doesn't matter, Melissa explains. They helped me understand my reaction wasn't about our current interaction, but about something deeper. Once I recognized this, I could approach him with compassion rather than aversion. Our working relationship improved dramatically. This perspective transforms how we might view our most difficult relationships. The critical parent may be giving you the opportunity to develop self-validation that your soul has struggled with for many lifetimes. The challenging child may be teaching you patience you failed to develop in previous incarnations. The betraying partner may be offering a chance to learn forgiveness after lifetimes of holding grudges. Cayce's readings suggest that we often alternate roles across lifetimes to understand different perspectives. Those who have been our oppressors in one life may become the oppressed in another, with our roles reversed. This cosmic balancing allows souls to experience both sides of any dynamic, developing the complete empathy that only comes from walking in another's shoes. Nowhere is this pattern more evident than in the phenomenon Cayce called soulmates, a term often romanticized in modern culture, but which carried much deeper significance in his readings. Far from the simplified notion of a perfect romantic partner, Cayce described soulmates as souls who have developed particularly strong bonds across many lifetimes and who come together repeatedly to help each other learn and grow. These soul-mate connections aren't limited to romantic relationships. They appear between friends, siblings, parent and child, mentor and student, any relationship characterized by profound recognition and mutual growth. David, a high school teacher from Colorado, experienced this when a new student transferred into his classroom mid-year. From the moment she asked her first question, I knew teaching her was why I'd become an educator, he recalls. I understood exactly how to explain concepts so she would grasp them, knew instinctively when to challenge her and when to offer support. It wasn't just that she was bright. It was as though we'd developed a teaching relationship over decades, not weeks. 3 years later, when the student was heading to college, she confided in David that his class had saved her life. Struggling with depression and thoughts of suicide, she had planned to end her life the week she transferred schools. But then I met you, she told him, and somehow I knew I was supposed to stay. It felt like I'd known you forever, like you were exactly the teacher I needed at that exact moment. From Cayce's perspective, their meeting wasn't coincidental, but orchestrated at a soul level. These two beings finding each other at precisely the right moment to fulfill a spiritual purpose. The teacher provided guidance when it was most needed. The student gave the teacher a profound sense of purpose and validation. These soul connections often exhibit remarkable synchronicities, birthdays separated by exactly the same number of days or years, meeting on significant anniversaries, discovering you've been in the same places at the same times throughout your lives without ever crossing paths until the moment was right. From a conventional standpoint, these might seem like mere coincidences. Through Cayce's lens, they represent the intelligent orchestration of souls working together across time and space. Jennifer and Mark, a couple from Pennsylvania, discovered after several years of marriage that they had been at the same small concert 20 years earlier as children, were hospitalized in the same facility during the same month as teenagers, on different floors for different conditions, and had both applied to the same university program, though Jennifer attended while Mark chose differently. Before finally meeting in their 30s, they had circled each other's lives repeatedly without connecting. Sometimes I think about all the near misses, Jennifer reflects. How many times did we almost meet before we were ready? It feels like the universe kept trying until the timing was right. This pattern of soul recognition appears consistently across cultures and throughout history. In Hindu tradition, it's described as Rina Anubandha, the bonds of karmic debt that draw souls together across multiple lifetimes. Indigenous cultures speak of spirits who travel together through many incarnations. Plato wrote of souls split apart, who forever seek to reunite. Modern research offers intriguing support for these ancient concepts. Studies of twins separated at birth often reveal uncanny similarities in preferences, talents, and life choices that genetic factors alone cannot explain. Experiments with past life regression therapy frequently uncover relationships that have continued across multiple lifetimes in different configurations. Dr. Brian Weiss, a psychiatrist who initially doubted reincarnation, changed his perspective after working with a patient who spontaneously recalled previous lives during therapy. Weiss documented numerous cases of patients recognizing people from their current lives in their past life memories, often in very different relationships than their present connections. Cayce's readings suggest we can cultivate awareness of these soul connections through attentiveness to our strongest emotional reactions. The person who irritates you beyond reason may be triggering unresolved issues from past interactions. The stranger you trust immediately may be someone your soul has known and relied upon before. This awareness doesn't mean passively accepting difficult relationships as fated. Rather, Cayce emphasized our responsibility to transform challenging connections through conscious choice in the present. The purpose of recognizing a soul companion from previous lifetimes isn't to dwell in the past, but to heal old wounds and create new, healthier patterns. Catherine, a business consultant from San Francisco, experienced this transformation with her younger sister. Throughout childhood and early adulthood, their relationship had been marked by bitter competition and mutual resentment. During a particularly heated argument in their 30s, Catherine was suddenly struck by an overwhelming sense that their conflict extended far beyond their current lifetime. In that moment, she recalls, I had this crystal clear understanding that we'd been locked in the same power struggle for centuries, sometimes as siblings, sometimes as rivals in different contexts, but always replaying the same dynamic of jealousy and betrayal. I could almost see the pattern stretching backward through time. This recognition didn't instantly heal their relationship, but it fundamentally changed Catherine's approach. Rather than reacting to her sister as just an annoying sibling, she began responding with awareness that they were engaged in a soul-level healing process. Over several years, with conscious effort from both women, their relationship transformed into one of mutual support and understanding. Now I can see we chose to be sisters in this lifetime, specifically to resolve this ancient conflict, Catherine explains. The intensity of family bonds meant we couldn't simply walk away from each other. We had to work through it. Cayce suggested that many family relationships serve exactly this purpose. We don't choose our families by accident, but specifically select the souls who will help us address our most important lessons. The parent who seems impossible to please may be helping you develop inner validation after lifetimes of seeking external approval. The sibling who constantly competes with you may be teaching you to define success on your own terms after incarnations of unhealthy comparison. Even our briefest encounters may carry spiritual significance. The stranger who offers precisely the guidance you need at a crucial moment, the person who enters your life for a season and catalyzes profound change before departing. Cayce would say these seemingly random meetings are often carefully orchestrated at a soul level, the universe conspiring to bring together exactly the right souls at exactly the right moments for mutual growth. Thomas, a writer from New Mexico, experienced this during a creative crisis. Stuck in profound writer's block and contemplating abandoning his novel, he reluctantly attended a friend's dinner party where he was seated beside an elderly woman he'd never met. During their conversation, she mentioned she'd been a book editor decades earlier. "You're working on something, aren't you?" she asked without prompting. "Something important that you're thinking about abandoning?" When Thomas acknowledged his struggle, she shared specific insights about the creative process that addressed exactly what he'd been experiencing. Her guidance helped him complete the novel, which became his breakthrough work. Thomas later learned the woman had been invited to the dinner party through a last-minute cancellation, had never attended one of these gatherings before, and never did again. Their single conversation lasted less than an hour, yet profoundly altered his creative trajectory. "It felt like the universe conspired to put us side by side at exactly the right moment," Thomas reflects. "Like she appeared in my life specifically to deliver that message, then disappeared again." As you reflect on the significant relationships in your own life, those that have shaped you most profoundly for better or worse, consider what spiritual purposes they might serve. Who has appeared at crucial junctures to offer exactly what you needed? With whom do you feel an inexplicable sense of recognition? What challenging relationships might be inviting you to heal patterns that have persisted across many lifetimes? The soul companions walking beside you now, as family, friends, colleagues, teachers, even apparent adversaries, may have been with you far longer than this lifetime. By approaching these relationships with awareness of their deeper purpose, you transform not just your present connections, but patterns that may have repeated across centuries.